Hello, my name is Sam Warkentin. Thank you so much for joining me here today virtually. I'm going to talk a little bit about my project, which is titled, How Can We Make Grant Funding Programs More Effective? So a little bit of the background is that grant funding programs are basically organizations like federal agencies or foundations, private companies that distribute money to other organizations for a certain cause. And so I really wanted to look at these grant funding programs in an environmental context because they are really important for providing funding to nonprofits, local and state governments, as well as other entities. But there is limited funding that grant funding programs can offer across the board nationally. And so it's competitive for a lot of organizations to apply for these grants. So it's really important, therefore, for grant funding programs to manage and distribute this money effectively. So my research questions asked which best management practices can benefit grant funding programs, and also which grant review strategies can aid grant funding programs. I interned at the US EPA Region 10 to kind of support my project, which was really a great experience and also allowed me to learn about grant funding programs. And the methodology that I used for my study was to analyze grant funding programs and grant review strategies. And so my results are broken down into three main steps. The first occurs before a project's even funded, which is to consider the applicant's project goals and how they align with a funding program's goals within the selection process. This can also be aided by statistical analysis methods, as well as data management and developing a program-specific review criteria. The second main result is that during projects, while the funding is actually being used, to have consistent analysis of project performance and outcomes. And lastly, the third best management practice that I found that could be implemented into grant funding programs is actually after the funding is over, when you're analyzing project outcomes, and by doing that, you can really inform future project selections by learning from either the success or failure of certain projects. The significance of this work is really that grant management can play a large role in how funding dollars are used and to what degree programs actually create environmental change. And so it's important to mention that further review of BMPs and grant review practices by grant funding programs, but then also by maybe external audits, could be really valuable for the grant management field. And something else that can be valuable is grant management strategies and concepts being taught within universities, which there's not too much of that right now. So being able to teach at a university level could be really beneficial for the effectiveness of creating environmental change over the long haul. And so I'd like to give special thanks to my site supervisors for this project, Vicki Salazar and Michelle Wilcox from EPA Region 10, and also my faculty advisor, Christy Strauss from the Program on the Environment. I really thank them so much for all their support of my project. And to reach me for any questions, my Twitter username is @Sam_Warkentin2. Thank you so much for listening.